Clear.
Why do we love horror? Maybe it's the thrill, that jolt of adrenaline in a safe, dark room. Maybe it's the mystery, the tension, the fight to survive. But horror is more than jump scares. It reflects our deepest fears, from social anxieties to personal trauma, holding up a mirror to the world we live in. And these questions are exactly why horror will never die. As long as we have fears, we will always have stories to tell. So dim the lights and let's step in. I'm Priscilla Radu, and this is the Scream Scene. Scream Scene, I'm joined with Miss Danielle Brown, a mommy blogger and lifelong horror fan, who's now channeling her love of the genre into writing two horror shorts of her own. Welcome, Miss Brown.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great, and you?
I'm good.
It's great. Let's get into it. So, when it comes to the horror genre, it's one of the most interesting topics out there. So, subjectively to you, what is horror in your opinion?
I would say anything that unsettles you, not necessarily scares you, just something that'll kind of make you scratch the back of your neck, But what's horror to me might not be horror to the next person, right? So I think what makes it subjective is that it's personal and it's all about how you feel.
Words of the great John Carpenter, as long as humans have fears, horror will never die.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, speaking of which, something interesting about I've noticed as a horror fan myself is that a lot of the greatest horror films, in my opinion, and what made the National Film Registries, is that these horror films tend to have some sort of underlying social commentary about it. It could be very in your face, like Jordan Peele's Get Out and Nope, and it can be something very um, underlying, like a multitude of things, like let's say
Mhm.
Stephen King's The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's adaptation, that you can write pages upon pages about fan theories about that.
Absolutely.
So, do you think audiences consciously recognize social commentary in horror, or does it work more subconsciously?
I think I find that there can be a balance sometimes. I think sometimes these movies are in your, like you said, they're right in your face. I'm telling you the message. I want you to get this message. And then there are other times that it's a little bit more subtle. Um, I think that when you have horror, people that write horror sometimes play upon what's happening in the world, right? So like the remake of Candyman from a couple of years ago, right? It really touched on the police versus the black man in the ghetto, you know what I'm saying? And that's in your face. You're looking directly at it. But then like you brought up Get Out. So I'm going to say Us. It's a little bit more subtle. You kind of have to watch it a few times to kind of understand the message, but then once you start paying attention to what's being layered on it, you're like, "Oh, okay, I get that."
Yes, I see what you mean. Like, it's a way of how people can tell their stories about social issues without, being told it's too woke or too political.
Mhm.
It's just for, they think it's for entertainment, but when you look at it, it's symbolic in a way. Like, let's say,
Mhm.
uh, I believe Planet of the Apes. It's a sci-fi horror, and it's it's alluding to the civil rights movement, really, the fears that
Yeah,
white nationalists have if black people were given the same human rights as white people, and it's
really.
it's more like a delusion that black people will take over the world and try to do to white people what white people did to them, if
Right.
you've heard. So,
Yeah, that's a really good example.
yeah. What is it about fear that keeps audiences coming in to see horror movies generation after generation?
Um, so like I'm with you in the whole horror is comforting, right? Like I literally one of my blog posts is titled Horror is my like it's my comfort zone, right? So like when I'm in a mood, I'll pop in Vampire in Brooklyn, right? Just because it's funny and it's campy and it draws me in. But I think that it's the same for a lot of people because it gives you like a controlled environment to experience fear.
For today, thank you, Miss Brown, for joining me on the Scream Scene.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So next week on the Scream Scene, I'll be discussing fan theories about famous horror films from the 80s. So I'm Priscilla Radu, and this is the Scream Scene. Thank you, and see you next time.